Hey guys, MCU Collector here with another figure review. Next up is the Super7 Ultimates Wave 1 of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. This is the Putty Patroller. If you've seen my previous video, that was a look at the Green Ranger, so now we are going on to the Putty Patroller. So big shout out and thank you to the fine folks over at Super7 for sending out this first wave to me so I can review for you guys. So taking a look at the package, we get this, not a power coin because it's a Putty Patroller, you know, he wouldn't have had that, but you gotta get an outline of their weird looking faces. The slipcover, you see the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers logo. It did come in a brown shipper box that has the Power Rangers logo on there. It says Putty Patroller. All the Super7 Ultimates figures come in those brown shipper boxes. And then here we have the slipcover, and we open it up to see the Putty Patroller figure and all of his accessories. So this one's actually really cool. So not only is it an army builder, but it comes with different pieces to really give you the varying different like Putty Patroller. So I will be doing a size comparison so you could take a look at a Putty Patroller from the Lightning Collection and the Z Putty, the Lord Zed Putty, which this does have pieces so you can actually create the Z Putty version of the Putty Patroller. So it's actually pretty cool, pretty interesting, and we'll get right to it. Looking at the back of the package there is the bio. If you want to pause it, you can read it now. I won't be going over it in the video, just going to take too much time, but I'm going to go ahead and open up this figure and get all the accessories out and all the crazy wacky stuff like the football jersey, the cowboy hat. Those are all going to be from like specific episodes, and they're just fun little additions to the overall set, so you can kind of, you know, change it up a little bit or just kind of have those interesting things from the TV show. So let's go ahead and check it out. Okay, so here is the Putty Patroller, all the accessories out of the package, and including one thing that I just really wasn't sure about. So it looks like these are going to be like shoulder pads for the football jersey. So, you know, in the episode, that football episode, they had football, like a full-on football uniform. They weren't going to include pants in this, but you'll actually make this to do as shoulder pads and then put the jersey on so it kind of bulks up and makes it look like it was in the show. So that's actually interesting. This is soft goods, so it is a cloth jersey, which is pretty cool, and we have the shoulder pads there. We also have this clown collar here, which is pretty cool because there was a particular episode of like clowning around or something that was called. So we have this collar piece that'll go around his neck, and you have those clown putty there. In terms of the cowboy one, we have a cowboy hat and like a bandana there, I guess that'll go around his neck. Go around its neck. I don't think this went around the head, so that'll wrap around the neck. So we have that. That is pretty cool. We have the Z Putty vest here that we will be able to pop onto the figure. We'll pop the head off and probably pop the arms out, and then you could put the Z chest on there, so that can kind of change it up and make it the different Z Putty from Lord Zed. And then we actually get these rubber knee pads that'll go over the knees to represent the Lord Zed Z Putty, because they actually had that difference there. It's not going to be 100%, but it's a nice little additional extra that it actually came with. A couple of extra heads. We actually get a pumpkin head for when the whole pumpkin wrapper episode was going on. So you have these. We'll pop that head on. You have the Putty Patroller with the pumpkin head. An alternate head here. This one would be, I think, more so like the Z Putty. That's what we'll kind of put that on there. We don't have red eyes, but we got kind of the bumpy looking face and stuff. It's still ugly as hell compared to like this one here. And then a bunch of different hands. So we got like the sword type rock hand here. We have the ball type hand. You can actually make out the hand in there, so that is really cool. Let's actually get in for a closer look at that. You can see the hand and then how it kind of turns into a ball, so that is pretty nice. We get a couple of open hands here, one that has the vertical hinge and one that has a horizontal hinge. They're basically the same hand but with the different hinges. And then you have kind of the like wide open hand here, and then we get the same set in for the right hands. There. So lots of stuff to take a look at. So let's get in for a closer look at that Putty Patroller figure. Okay, so here we have an up-close look at the Z Putty figure here with the red eyes and kind of the dark face, the kind of the smooth face. I actually like this head sculpt a lot more when I think of the Putty Patrollers. This is the look that I really think about, like kind of the bumpy look with the big like wrinkled mouth and things like that. So this is the head sculpt that I actually prefer, and again, I think this is going to be more for Z Putty, but I really like the way it looks. The Z Putty had all kinds of different designs when it comes to like these black stripes. This is kind of how Super7 did it, and they have the belt here, and then you have the forearms that are all rocky in the dark color, and then you have the hands. So we have the fists that are actually on the figure already, and then we get those, you know, those interchangeable pieces. And to do that, you want to be careful with these pegs. That one actually came out quite easy, but you can see how small the pegs are. So be very careful when it comes to that, because you know you don't want to be breaking these or anything like that. There is a hinge on this, so you can kind of just go on there, and then you have that big boulder hand there. Then if you wanted to do this one, I guess the thumb is opposite, so this one's really made for the left. Those hands came out a lot easier than I thought they were going to be. And then we have like that sword hand on there. Does this one have a hinge? There is a horizontal hinge on this, so you can hinge it around a little bit there. But I kind of prefer like hands on the putty, so we'll put those hands on there. Those actually peg in quite easily, so that's good, because I'm always scared I'm going to be breaking, you know, those different pieces and things like that. So let's put the fist back on there. Oh, you know what? Shit, there you go. Busted the hinge on that boulder hand, so I'm gonna have to try and get that one out now. Okay, so let's look at the rest of the figure. It's just all done in gray, as you can see there, and a little bit of darker gray for the boots there. So it sucks that that peg on that boulder hand broke. That really sucks. I really like that hand, kind of one of the most. Unfortunately, it's not going to work out. Let's go ahead and pop this head off, and let's pop these other heads on there. So here's like the Z Putty Patroller head. And that pops on there. And I do prefer this head sculpt. I actually really like the way this looks there. And then we do have the pumpkin head, and you can kind of, I guess, put this on any way you prefer. And there is the Putty Patroller with the pumpkin head, and he can fight the Power Rangers like so. So now we're going to put some of these other pieces, and we'll kind of create those different Z Putty using the included accessories. So let's go ahead and check those out. Okay, so for starters, you just pull out the arms. They're pretty easy to pull out. You just kind of grab tight here and just pull them out, pop the head off, and then you can get the other pieces onto the figure. This one's going to take a little bit of stretching because it's definitely going to be tight. So let's go ahead and do that off screen. Okay, so so you do have to stretch this out a little bit, but that does go on easy. And one thing that I really like when you actually put that on is it completely covers up the black stripes of the regular Putty Patroller from Rita Repulsa's, I guess her version of the Putty Patrollers. And then these bands, these knee pads, they're actually like rubber bands to kind of stretch out to fit over the feet and the legs, and they go over the knees. So that actually does give you the Z Putty Patroller. So that is pretty nifty that you can do that with the same putty. So you can have regular Rita Repulsa putty, and then you can have Lord Zed's putty there. So not too shabby, actually. Okay, so we're going to go for the football look. So we're going to take the shoulder pad, as you can see there. We're going to hold it in place, and using the Velcro here, we're going to Velcro together to hold the shoulder pad in place. And what you want to do, it's hard to do this as my arms are like stretched out to make sure that we can get this on camera, is to do that, and then it holds the jersey in place. So then we can actually add the jersey on over this, and I'm gonna have to work this out, and it's all stretched out. So let me do this off camera to get the football jersey on. Okay, so it's definitely easier to do when you kind of hold it close. My arms stretched out. It was kind of difficult to try and grip that correctly to be able to do that. So once we do that, we can then work the arm into the sleeve of the jersey. And then again, actually, you know what? This one's probably going to be better to do off screen as well. The cloth material of the jersey does work well to where you can actually, it actually stretches out a little bit to get it over the shoulder pads. But, you know, working the arm back in there is going to be a little bit tricky. So let me do that off screen here too. Okay, so now that I got one on, let's go ahead and just like work through this. Boom. And there we have our jersey on, and let's go ahead and get the head popped on there. And we have our football player putty, which was from football season, I think is what the episode was called. So that's actually nice that with the jersey we actually get that puffed up look, because he's actually got pads. Because in that episode, the Putty Patroller definitely had like full football gear on. So that is definitely a nice touch. And one thing at first when it was in the package. I'm like, what the hell is this thing? Took me a little bit to get that figured out. So there we go, football version of the Putty Patroller. Okay, and here we have the clown collar on the Putty Patroller, and this is from like the No Clowning Around episode. There's some extra thread there. So you put the collar around all the Putty Patrols. They were at like a carnival or something, you know, the rides. So the Putty Patrollers, I guess, disguise themselves as clowns, but they all had like this collar on there. And we get that it's a nice cloth material. It's got a couple layers to it, so you can kind of frill it out a little bit. And then there you have your clown Putty Patrollers. And just a little added detail, we have the cowboy Putty Patrollers. I think they actually wore vests in the episode, if I'm not mistaken, so we don't get a vest to give that full cowboy look, but it does change up a little bit if you're looking to build a display with these. You know, that'd be an expensive army build display, but if that's something that you want to do, you could really switch it up, because you can have your football version, you can have your cowboy version, you can have your clown version, you can have your Z Putty version, you can have your regular Putty Patroller version, then you can have the pumpkin wrapper pumpkin head version. So you get a crazy amount of options, and you can switch out the hands and everything. Just make sure you're careful with those pegs, because they're little pegs and they're delicate, so you don't want to break them like I did. So lots of different options with the Putty Patroller, but now let's go ahead and see how he moves. Okay, so articulation for the Putty Patroller. So like I had mentioned in my Green Ranger review, if that is something that you took a look at, they are not full, highly articulated figures like Hasbro figures would be. These are more stylized to give you more of a nostalgia factor that is similar to old school toys that you would have found like in the 90s when the show had come out. So it is limited in articulation. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to get them in the most dynamic poses, but there is some movability with them. So Putty Patrollers can look up. They can not somewhat look down. You get full rotation in there, of course, not really any pivot going on there. Shoulder can go straight on out like so. You can get a full rotation in that shoulder. Upper bicep swivel in there. You get a single jointed elbow, unfortunately, which gives you 90-degree. Double jointed elbows are always better, but we don't quite have that. There's somewhat of a swivel in that single jointed elbow. Wrist swivel, and they do hinge depending on the hand. You'll have vertical or horizontal hinge on there. We have an ab crunch that's going to be pretty limited, so you're only going to be able to move forward that much, not a whole lot. You can go back quite a bit, but it does break up with the sculpt and look a little bit funny there. The waist is on a ball joint, so you get a swivel at the waist. You can tilt a little bit with that ball joint, not a huge amount, and you don't want to force it too much and pop it off, but you can tilt a little bit, and then you can get it to go back just a little bit on that waist and come forward as well. But again, it is still pretty limited. Legs go out that far apart. You can really push it to do the full splits. Going forward, you can kick up. See, I got the Green Ranger to go a little bit more. You just kind of have to force it a little bit, and you can kick up that high or so. Leg goes back a fair amount. Not a whole lot of twist on that thigh. You get a little bit. Thigh swivel would have been nice. Single jointed knee, which gives you only a 90-degree bend at the knee. Double jointed knees would be better. Of course, we do not get that here. You do get a boot swivel in there. Foot hinges down a little bit. You get actually a lot of hinge up. Holy moly. You get the Green Ranger ankle pivot worked a lot better. Oh, there we go. We get the ankle pivot and peg holes at the bottom of the feet on the Putty Patroller. So there we go with the articulation. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way. We will do a size comparison with the Hasbro Lightning Collection. Keep in mind that the Lightning Collection is a 6-inch figure line. The Super 7 Ultimates are a 7-inch action figure line. So there's definitely going to be size disparity between the two figures. So we have the Z Putty that Hasbro released, and then we have the regular Putty Patroller. I don't know if this one came in that 2-pack or if it was a single release. Did they do a single release? No, they did another 2-pack with the Green Ranger. So there are the Z Putty and the regular Putty Patrollers. So huge size difference between the two, and then you can see a difference in kind of the design choices on some of the things. So we had a real light color face mask there, which I always thought was weird. I always remember them having a dark color. Some of them, it did match the gray, but the gray was a lot darker on some. It was real tricky when it came between the Japanese footage and the American footage on what they did. It always kind of looked funny, but you could see they're all pretty similar with the rock forearms and things like that. So 7-inch versus 6-inch. And then, of course, we will see our Putty Patroller next to the other figure from this wave that I have opened. This is the Green Ranger. Somebody's having fun out there. So here, wave 1, we have the Putty Patroller and the Green Ranger. Next up, we will take a look at the Yellow Ranger, and then we will take a look at Goldar, and then move into the Tyrannosaurus Dino Zord. So there we have Super 7's wave 1 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers so far. You guys let me know down in the comments below, what do you think of this Putty Patroller figure? Have you picked it up? Did you pre-order? Is yours coming? Let me know in the comments below. If you guys like this video, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Hit that join button to become a channel member and be a part of the MCU collective. And as always, thank you for watching.